Okay, for today's video, we're going to take a look at the Norinco TT Olympia. It's a clone of the 1936 Walther Olympia in the Jaeger trim, or commonly known as the Hunter trim. It's a semi-automatic, shrouded hammer, 22 LR firearm that is made in China. I was able to pick this one up for just under 200 loonies, and I was able to get it just before the handgun ban came into effect in Canada. That being said, before we go over anything on the firearm, we want to make sure it's safe. So right up here, it's a magazine release. We're going to press that. Magazine pops out nice and free. You can set that aside. And then what we're going to want to do to take it down, it is so easy. The trigger guard here, do it this way so I can show you. Just pull down the front of it, pull your barrel back, lift it up, come forward. That is simple. Once you have that there, you can check your barrel, your feed path, your mag well. This firearm is safe and clear. There is no bullets in here. We can now proceed to check out the functions without fear of something going wrong. Now the slide, there's really not a whole lot to it. I mean, it does house your firing pin up in there. It's recommended you don't really mess around with that if you don't have to. You know, if it's working good, don't fix it if it ain't broke. Now what we'll do before we go with the rest of the functions is we're going to put the slide back on. It's pretty much the same thing in reverse. You want to pull the front of your trigger guard down. I don't know if you can, kind of goes through there. Bring it up, bring it all the way back, go down level, bring it up, let your trigger guard go. There you go, back. Dry fire it. Okay, now, first thing you might notice is this thing has a counterweight on the barrel. That's to help prevent the barrel rise when you shoot. I mean, it is only a 22 LR, so you're not going to have too much barrel rise. Plus, it's a metal frame gun, so that helps with the recoil. But we'll just pop this off. It's just 2 screws under here. It is kind of ugly. You might get some weird looks at the range for people that don't know what it is. There's one. There's 2. The screws come out the bottom. So yeah, that's it there. Just sits down in one place. There's a little bit of a notch and a little bit of a raised portion on here that fits in there. So pretty obvious where it goes. It does look a little bit more like a regular firearm without it. Okay, now we'll go through some of the functions. What I have here are 22 LR dummy rounds. I don't know if you can read that on there or not. I have 6 of them. They're just empty shells. There's nothing inside. They're made specifically for loading, unloading, and function testing your firearm. Now on the magazine, there's this little button. You can pull it down to compress the spring. Makes it a little bit easier to load up the magazine on this thing. Okay. Now we're going to want to put this in here. Now it's a little stiff to get it in. You could either depress your mag release to pop it in or just push it. Okay, so now that's in there. There's a dummy round chambered. Of course, we don't want to fire it. So this is our safety right here. It's kind of stiff. If you push it straight down, it won't fire. Now you have to push it like either straight up and down. If you push it in towards the gun, it'll get stuck in those little detents. And I tell you, it's just a royal pain. There. So now it's back up to fire. Of course, we don't want to fire on the dummy round because it'll just wreck the rim of the cartridge. So we'll do a little function test. We'll just make sure it feeds and ejects. We can do that by simply racking the slide back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now there's the slide lock open. It's just this little bar here. The only way to really get that to rack back is to pop out your empty magazine, pull it back, let it go, or have your empty magazine back in there. It locks open. You can manually just press it and it'll close up. Okay, well, that's pretty much it for the main firearm. Let's have a little talk about these magazines. Norinco, why did you make such a crappy designed magazine? I took one apart yesterday just to see how difficult it was. There's 2 screws. This chunk of plastic comes off, and there's a base plate. In the middle of the base plate, there's a little tab that you can push off, and then there's a floor plate that slides off. The floor plate is so tightly fitted onto the magazine body, it was next to impossible to get off. And when I did get it off, the inside plate that has the tab you press and the spring flew out. I was not prepared for that. I wasn't ready. That's my bad. The spring in here only runs along the end here. It doesn't fill the whole magazine like most firearms I've seen. And the spring in here, it's this long. It's twice as long as the magazine. To get that sucker back in was next to impossible. Furthermore, that little button that you can use to press down when you're loading the magazine, well, it comes all the way down to here, and then it can pop out so that your follower can come out the bottom so you can clean out the internal of your magazine body if you wish. To get this back in, when you reassemble it, you put in your follower, and there's a hole in the bottom of the follower that this goes into. You need to line that hole up with this little round part. You need to drop this pin into it. But if you drop it all the way in, it goes too far, because you see this pin on the very top has 2 slots, one on either side, so that when you put it in this hole, it'll ride up on the rail here. Now, the rail, it's not even. It's tapered. One side's higher, one side's lower. So on this pin, the grooves, one is higher, one is lower. I didn't notice that at first. I had a hard time putting it in. When I finally figured out the offset of the grooves, I was able to get it in with a pair of pliers and slowly twist it with the flashlight on it so I could see the grooves and where they lined up. I was able to get it back in. And then, like I say, the whole idea of trying to compress the spring in here, total pain in the ass. Once that's in and you put the plate on with the tab before the final floor plate, it was just a complete nightmare. Again, Norinco, why did you design such a crappy magazine? It's not user-friendly. I would not recommend taking this apart at all unless you're having an issue with the magazine. I do not plan on taking mine apart again unless something, isn't functioning properly. So that's my little rant on this crappy magazine. It only holds 8 rounds. You can get an aftermarket one from Marstar, and it holds, I believe, 9 rounds. Anyway, that being said, it is a budget-friendly gun, 22 LR. It is designed for a right-hand shooter, single hand. It's not designed for really 2. And you can tell that by the grips. If you look, this side has a bulge where for your thumb and whatever, and the other side is just flat. So when you're holding it, you got a nice little thumb rest there. Sorry about my gloves, the tore. Anyway, that's it. It's a nice little firearm for pew-pew target shooting. That'd be the Norinco TT Olympia 22 LR semi-automatic. As always, Abide by all state, provincial, federal rules on storage and transportation of a firearm. Please ensure that your firearm is not accessible to anybody that is not allowed to have access to it. And please, by all means, always make sure your gun is checked safe, that it is free of ammunition before doing anything, and keep it pointed in a safe direction, finger off the trigger. Have a good one.